Is chasing the perfect berry farming donut a waste of time? Well, today we're going to answer that question. We're going to be looking at the best ways to farm the exact berries you're looking for, not just mass farming 1,000 Papa berries, because I hear you don't need more of those. Whether it's worth using expensive hyperspace berries in your donuts, or if you can get by with cheap regular berries from Lumiose City, and how to combine all of these principles to maximize your yield per real life time, so you spend less time grinding and more time actually playing the game. I'm Zane, aka Direwolf. Let's dive in. First, we need to establish why you are hunting these berries in the first place. I doubt your goal is to be Kalos's #1 berry farmer. Instead, I bet you're looking for these berries specifically to make shiny hunting donuts. And if that's the case, any old berry isn't gonna do. What you need to be looking for is maximizing your encounters with tanga berries and haban berries. Which means I'm not just gonna tell you go into a large hyperspace hole with berry power level 3 and big haul level 3 and farm your life away. No, instead we're going to focus on which powers are actually worth resetting and which ones are worth keeping when you're rolling for that big haul level 3 and berry power level 3 to maximize the time you spend actually getting results and minimize the time you spend grinding for donuts. So that's exactly what this video is going to focus on. We are going to maximize your tanga berry and your haban berry farming rates per unit your time. That's going to include resets at PokeBalls, resets for donuts, any type of time that you are spending playing this game just for the sake of farming donuts is going to be included, and we are going to minimize that and maximize the output of the shiny hunting berries that you're looking for. So I did mention re-rolling Pokeballs. For anyone that doesn't know, you can save before you break the Pokeball, and if you don't get the results that you're looking for, whatever you're farming, you can just reset the game, reload, and break the Pokeball again in hopes of getting your particular desired outcome. This is super useful when re-rolling for the really rare Pokeballs, and this is going to be incredibly useful now. So if we crack open a Pokeball and we don't find the berries that we're looking for, it makes complete sense to reset that Pokeball instead of just moving on, because it's so much faster to reset a Pokeball than it is to reset a donut for a particular stat. And we are going to be using those reset rates in combination with the donut reset rates to figure out which makes the most sense for you to get the most efficiency out of your farms. So let's talk about what's inside each of these Pokeballs. You may have noticed that the small, large, and bonus balls have slightly different loot tables. This means each one is going to be inherently better or worse at farming a particular berry that we're looking for. So the small Pokeball, for example, when it drops a berry, it will only ever drop one of that berry, whereas the large and the bonus Pokeballs can drop multiple of specific berries. And using the loot tables for each of these Pokeballs available on Serebii, we can see that the haban berry only drops one berry anytime it's rolled, regardless of what Pokeball that's out of. But the tanga berry, for example, can drop 2 out of any large Pokeball and still only 1 out of a small Pokeball. This means that the small Pokeball is going to be our better farming tool for the haban berries, because if we're going to spend time re-rolling, we might as well just get a haban berry out of the small Pokeballs when it's only 1 of each, instead of re-rolling for 1 haban berry out of these rare, large, and bonus Pokeballs when those can be dropping multiple tanga berries. So if we're going to reset a Pokeball, we want to make sure that we're getting at least 1 haban berry out of the smalls, or a tanga berry if that's what you're really after, and making sure that you get not only a tanga berry, but multiple tanga berries out of the bonus and the jumbo Pokeballs when you're farming those. With Pokeballs out of the way, let's talk donuts. If you could roll every donut with big haul level 3 and berry power level 3, that's the go-to option for a berry farming donut, but that's not the case. Instead, it takes about 35 donuts with the 760 flavor score or the 8 Kasib recipe to actually make a berry power level 3, big haul level 3 donut. It takes about 38 seconds to reset a donut on the Switch 2, and at 35 donuts at 38 seconds per reset, you're looking at just over 20 minutes per big haul level 3, berry power level 3 donut. That's abysmal. So if we loosen up the restraints a little bit using that same 8 Kasib donut recipe, but now we allow big haul level 3 without berry power level 3, as long as it's not a conflicting item type, because some of the other item types will prevent you from rolling berries outside of the bonus ball. So we want to avoid those. So we open it up to that and any other combination of berry power without big haul, or level 3 and level 2 combinations of berry power and big haul with that same recipe, we can cut that reset time down to 4 minutes per donut, which just freed up 15 minutes of your life. And with that 15 minutes, you could spend spend that time resetting each one of the Pokeballs. And at just under 7 seconds per reset, that's over 130 resets that you have available for Pokeballs in a given hyperspace wild zone that you didn't spend resetting for that specific perfect recipe that you might also have to spend time resetting for Pokeballs as well, because you're not guaranteed Tanga Berries and Haban Berries even with the Big Haul level 3 and Berry Power level 3. And using the bonus ball as an example, there is just under a 50% chance with Big Haul level 3 and Berry Power level 3 that you will roll both your Tanga Berry and your Haban Berry in the same ball. And even if you end up with Berry Power level 3, which has the worst odds at rolling both of these berries together in the bonus ball, that's still a 20% chance. So you went from a roughly 1 in 2 to a roughly 1 in 5. That cost you 30 seconds in exchange for 15 minutes. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're gonna reset multiple Pokeballs, so that's gonna add up. Well, the large hyperspace wild zone only has 12 small balls, 4 large balls, and 1 bonus ball. So that's 17 total Pokeballs. And so if we said you're gonna reroll these 5 times per Pokeball, that's still under 10 minutes of total reset time in a wild zone. You saved 15. You have 5 more minutes to go do whatever you want. And this is gonna add up indefinitely. So how does this change if we don't use the most expensive recipe possible when making these donuts? What if we used instead the cheapest recipe possible? And we just bought 8 Culver berries from the Lumiose City berry vendors and crammed all those into one donut. What does that look like? Well, if we use these cheap donuts, that essentially takes the donut reroll time out because we don't need to reset for them. We can just keep rolling and making more donuts because they're so cheap. And that takes our reset time down to less than 5 seconds per reset. So if we reallocate our time that we were resetting for donuts and we just put that to resetting for Pokeballs with the super cheap donut, I was actually surprised. This comes out to be pretty close to the really expensive recipe. In the small hyperspace wild zones, for example, if you're using the expensive recipe, but you're accepting more than just the Big Haul level 3 and Berry Power level 3, what you can expect is 0.61 Tanga berries per minute. Now, if you use the 8 Culver berry recipe, you can expect 0.60 Tanga berries per minute. That's crazy. That's essentially the exact same rate for 0 cost or incredibly expensive cost. This blew my mind that this was going to be this close. So this raises the next question of, we obviously don't have to use the cheapest berry possible. We all have plenty of berries sitting in our inventory that we aren't using that need to find a home. So if you are literally broke on berries and you have nothing that you can leverage, you can just go buy the Lumiose City berries, make a ton of Culver berry donuts, and you can go berry farming in the small wild zones. They start to separate when you get into the medium and larger wild zones. So I do not recommend these in the larger wild zones, especially because of how calorically limited these really cheap donuts are. But this was still a really cool finding. So what other cheap recipes can we make? If you've seen any other of my donut videos, you know that 760 is the gold standard breakpoint. After that, it's 700 for any of these single flavor donuts. Well, we're just trying to beat 180. That bar is so low right now. So the next step below 700 is the 525 breakpoint. And with the 525 breakpoint, there's a couple of really cool things that we can do. Using a base recipe of 1 Rosalie berry, 1 Shucca berry, and 1 Wacan berry, we can get to a 525 sour score, filling the other 5 slots with any combination of Babiri berry and Culver berry. These are berries that do not really serve any other practical purpose because you're not looking for fresh or bitter donuts. So most likely you're like me and have a large number of these sitting in your inventory. And the Babiri berry does give you the most calorie boost of any donut. So being able to apply these to a berry farming donut makes a ton of sense because that's just more time that you get to spend looking for all those Pokeballs, finishing up the tasks so that you can get to the bonus ball. But there might be some better things you can use that Wacan berry for. Hint, hint. So instead of using the Wacan berry, you can just substitute another Babiri or Culver berry into that slot, be it 530. No big deal. It's just more calories and you can save that berry for something else down the line. We'll get to that. But hitting that 525 breakpoint is still basically premium light. We're just trying to compete with 8 regular berries right now. So instead, let's use some recipes that use regular berries. So if we take that same Babiri and Culver mix, all it takes is 6 of those berries and 2 other regular berries that have a total sour score of 30. So 2 Colbur berries give you 40, which means you can use a Colbur berry and something like a Papa berry. The options are truly just about endless. This gives you a huge inventory of berries to leverage when making these other donuts. So you can still use your reject hyperspace berries that are going to get you up to a 5-star donut that are going to make things like catching Pokemon easier to complete tasks when you're looking for a bonus ball, but still leverage the super cheap donuts. If you've already removed 2 berries from your berry farming requirements, you only need 75% of the berries to make some of these berry farming donuts. So I'm not going to go too in depth on which of these recipes is best. It really is just any combination of Babiri and Colbur berries. I just wouldn't go more than 4 of any one of those individual berries because you then start overpowering with the secondary flavors of bitter and fresh. But any combination of 2 to 4 of any of those berries and then fill in the blanks with whatever regular Lumiose City berries you want, go nuts. But making this actionable, here's what you need to do. Take all of your Kasib berries, turn those into the 8 Kasib donut recipe. Re-roll those as many times as you need to before you get berry power level 3 or big haul level 3, as long as that big haul level 3 does not have a competing item power. Anything else you should hold on to, and you should use those to still farm for berries. Now, you're not going to use those on some of the large hyperspace holes. That's what you want to reserve the big haul level 3 and berry power level 3 for, but you need to stop resetting all of those because it's not worth the time investment for the extra berries that you get out of it. Now, for the cheap donuts, you'll never get big haul level 3 and berry power level 3 on the same donut, but you will get one of each. So these are going to be perfect donuts to use for the small hyperspaces and some of the really good rolls you can use on the medium hyperspaces as well. But you want to use your 760, 8 Kasib recipes, save those for more of the large and medium hyperspace holes, depending on what you roll. And then you want to save your cheap recipes for the small and medium ones. But if we're talking about not being picky with our berry farming donuts and layering in some other flavor types in it, what if we merged sour donuts with sweet donuts and our berry farming donuts can become our shiny hunting donuts as well? And that's where that Wacan berry that I mentioned earlier comes in. Well, if you want to learn more about that, check out this video here where we'll combine your berry farming donuts with your shiny hunting donuts so you can spend even less time grinding. I'll see you there.